let's talk about the best exercise that you can do to get ready for the Grand Canyon. Get ready for your hike in the Grand Canyon. Now, we're taking this from the perspective of, we're answering this question from the perspective of, if you could only do one thing, if you could only do one exercise, what could you do to make you most ready for your hike or run in the Grand Canyon? Well, we get the answer to that question by asking ourselves another question. And that is, well, what do you do in the Grand Canyon? What is the predominant physical activity you do in a hike in the Grand Canyon? And that is, are you ready for it? Surprise, surprise, going down and going up. You're either going down the South Kaibab Trail or the Bright Angel Trail or the North Kaibab Trail, or you're going up one of those trails. So that gives us our answer. What we should focus on in our preparation for the Grand Canyon is going down and going up. Hi, I'm JT, and I have done the Grand Canyon rim to rim to rim 5 times. I've done rim to rim 2 times, and if you count all my R3s, well, that's 12 times altogether, because every time you do a R3 or rim to rim to rim, that's 2 rim to rims back to back. I've also done many what my friend Carl and I call down and ups. So we go down to the bottom and back up. And we're doing this all in one day, all of those. And I've had to learn a lot of hard lessons. I've had to learn how to get ready to go to the Grand Canyon or hike the Grand Canyon efficiently, because as I've gone there, my goal, if you watch this channel, you'll know that my goal I had set several years ago was to do an R3, rim to rim to rim, and to do it in 16 hours. Whew. I had no idea how big of a goal that would be. I'm out of shape right now. I had no idea how big of a goal that would be when I set it, until I started working on it and started to realize how hard it really was. And that brings me to Coach Arnie Fonseca Jr. Coach Arnie, he kind of adopted me as his trainee and became my coach for the Grand Canyon.
What I like to see, I think your knees are a little too far forward, so I want you to sit back a little more.
All right.
So I'm visualizing myself sitting as I'm coming downhill.
Okay.
And the steeper I get, the more I sit.
Okay.
And I'm always focused on feeling it in the belly of the muscle of my quads.
Yeah.
If I'm feeling it in my joints, I'm too far over my toes.
Yeah, I actually feel that's interesting.
Feel that,
I do. And he's done it far many more times than I have. Many more times. And he has also got a background in coaching athletes for many years. And he's also an exercise physiologist. So he knows what he's talking about. I'm out of breath right now because I'm out of shape, and I'm going up a hill right now. We'll talk about more on that in a little bit. We'll talk more about that in a little bit. So back to Coach Arnie. So when I first started training for the Grand Canyon, I thought, well, I just need to get as many miles as I possibly can. As many miles as I possibly can, and that will get me ready. 11.1 miles, about 15 miles today. So I need to get the mileage. You gotta keep doing, I gotta keep doing miles, putting in the miles. Did about 15.7 miles, 25.6 miles, 26 miles. Now we're gonna go do the remaining 0.2, so we have a total of a marathon. Carl and I just made a decision. We're gonna add some miles. 34.1 miles, 29.4 miles. How long did it take us? I can't even remember now.
Almost 8 hours.
Yeah, just under 8 hours. What do you have, 13.6?
13.6.
13.6 miles. I did a little over a half marathon, and it's, at one point that seemed like a lot. Now it seems like we're just barely starting. Now, there is some wisdom in that, there is some truth in that, but it's not the best thing you could do. I was just thinking about how many miles total total can I rack up? The idea is how much time are you spending on your feet? And the more time you spend on your feet, well, the more capable you are of spending time on your feet. Does that make sense? Well, he saw this and he said, Jared, man, you really need to be doing more elevation gain, more training going up hills. And he also encouraged me to do something else, which we'll talk about in another video. And I'll spare you the suspense. Talked about strength training, which is not the topic of today's video. I was thinking about in terms of distance, like total distance. And in my case, I wanted to do rim to rim to rim, and that's about 46.5 miles, or 44.5 miles, excuse me. Or if you're thinking of doing an R rim to rim, R2, well, then it's about 22 to 24 miles, depending on what you're doing. If you're going north to south or south to north or whatever it might be. Okay? And something like that, right? Don't quote me on those numbers. And I was thinking of it in terms of total distance and total time on your feet. But he was trying to help me understand that you got to think of what you're doing during those miles. And what you're doing during those miles is you're going down and you're going up. And so he encouraged me to do more elevation gain training. So my training for the Grand Canyon evolved over time to a focus on going up hills and going down hills, and didn't even really worry about the total distance. What I was focusing more on was total elevation gain. Okay, so let's talk about that. All right, so here I'm on a hill. They call it Gold Mine Mountain. In Arizona, we don't have very tall mountains, so anything that kind of bumps up a little bit, we call a mountain. But anyways, it's called Gold Mine Mountain. It's about 10 or 12 minutes away from my house. I come out here and I go up and over, up and over, up and over many, many times. And what I'm trying to do, and this is my recommendation for you, is to get at least half, right? To work up to at least half of the total elevation gain for the hike that I'm planning in the Grand Canyon. Okay, so let's try to illustrate that for a minute. If I am trying to do an R3, rim to rim to rim, then the total elevation gain for that hike for the day is about 11,000 feet. So what I want to do is set my goal to get at least 5,000 to 6,000 feet of elevation gain in what I've come to as about 3 or 4 workouts prior to going to the Grand Canyon. So you do that gradually over time. You work up to it. So what that looks like is I pick a hill or mountain close to my house, and I go here once a week. About what I've kind of come to is about 3 weeks in a row and then 1 week off to help me recover. So 3 weeks in a row, I come here, I go up and over the mountain, and then do that 3 weeks in a row, then take 1 week off so I can get fully recovered. This is to help prevent or reduce the risk of injury, and come back and do it another 3 weeks. Okay? And what I'm doing is I'm starting off at a low number of elevation gain. Like today, I think I'm gonna do about 1,200 maybe, something like that. And then I'll gradually increase that every week until I get to about 6,000 feet of elevation gain for at least 3 workouts, preferably 4, before I take 2 weeks off and then go to the Grand Canyon. I'm not worried about how many miles I've gone. I'm more worried about the quality of those miles. And particularly that means going up and going down. So if you are, say, you're gonna do a down and up, you wanna go down to the bottom of the Grand Canyon and back up. Let's say you decided to take the Bright Angel Trail and you wanna go down to the bottom, hang out at Phantom Ranch, turn around and come back up. And let's say it's your goal to do that in one day. Now keep in mind that the rangers or the park recommends that nobody do that. They do not want people going down, back up in a day because so many people have gotten themselves into trouble doing that because they underestimate the temperatures, they underestimate how difficult it is, they underestimate how their body will perform under those conditions, and they have problems. Whoa, it's getting really windy up there. So for example, let's say you're gonna go down to the bottom and back up. And what I was saying is that just keep in mind the park doesn't want anyone doing that because they have to account for everybody, people that are in very good shape and people that are in not good shape at all. And so it's a wide range of people, and people can very easily get themselves into trouble. Now, among hikers and runners, we have a saying, respect the Grand Canyon. And what that means has everything to do with, you know, picking up your garbage and all that stuff and not doing any graffiti and not taking things from the Grand Canyon home for souvenirs or any of that stuff. But it also is referring to the fact that the Grand Canyon is very dangerous, and it's probably more so dangerous because it seems like it's not. Like it's just a pristine place to go hiking. And it certainly is that, but it is extremely dangerous. Okay, so enough of that. We want to respect the Grand Canyon, which means you need to, if you're doing that, then you are preparing. You're getting yourself ready by preparing to go there well in advance if you're planning on going there, okay? And doing a hike. So back to our example here. If you're going down to the bottom and back up on the Bright Angel Trail, you're gonna have a total elevation gain coming back of about 4,800 feet. Okay, so 4,800 feet, you could round that up to 5,000. So in your hikes, preparing for that, getting ready for that, you want to think, okay, well, I need to get about 2,500 feet of elevation gain, preferably more if possible, but minimum 2,500 feet elevation gain, and at least 3, preferably 4, workouts prior to going on that hike. So you need to back up. How many weeks would it take to work up to that? And then how many weeks prior to going on that hike will I need to be in that kind of shape from that type, or have time to do that type of preparation? So that's what I've been focusing on in terms of getting ready for the Grand Canyon. And that's what I've changed my training to, and it has made a world of difference. It wasn't until I started doing that year after year that it got to the point where I was able to finally meet my goal in the Grand Canyon. It helps a lot. Let's talk about one instance. So when you're going up hills, we have to keep in mind, along with all of this, that there are very, very few spots in the Grand Canyon that are actually flat. And even if you think that it's flat, there's usually a little bit of an incline or a little bit of a decline, depending on which direction you're going, right? So one thing where this comes in handy is when you're really tired. If you know what that feels like during your training, you're going up and you're feeling tired, then when you're in the Grand Canyon, you know what that feels like to be tired going uphill, and mentally you know, I can still do this. So it's not just the physical aspect, it's also the mental aspect that really helps. So that's a lot of rambling. If you're getting ready to go to the Grand Canyon, I hope this video has been helpful. There's a lot of detail. I thought this would be a short video, but there's a lot of detail as I'm thinking about it and talking about it that I think would be to help people understand, hopefully help you understand what you need to do to get ready and have the best time possible. You want to go there and enjoy your experience and not be in a situation where you're worried about whether or not you can make it out of there, right? That's the last thing you want to have happen. Trust me, I've been in those shoes, and you just don't want to go through that. So hopefully you found this video helpful. If so, please hit the like button and remember to subscribe, and I'll see you next time, whenever that might be.